Nothing's changed. There's no update as of right now in terms of the finalizing anything. As I referenced the other day, I think we're in a really good place with Patrice. Just the timing and working out the details of his contract and allowing him to declare that he's good to go. Could be any time frame there. Just working through some of the stuff, letting some of this day pass, and again, he's the only one that's going to make that final announcement because he has the final say. And David Krejci, we've had numerous discussions throughout the day. Going to try to continue to find some common ground there. Remains positive, but I just don't have a clear-cut answer for you.
Did that put you in an uncomfortable spot as you're trying to do business today, not having their decision final?
No, I've operated, with a clear mind, indication, I think, certainly in one of them. We made the trade earlier today with Eric Hall, and I want to thank Eric. Was a big part of our team this year and did a tremendous job. Wishing him well in New Jersey. We just felt that, Pavel Zacha was a player that we had targeted in the middle of the ice and a multi-positional type player, younger. Feel there's growth and potential there moving forward. We hope to be able to find a deal and bring him as part of the organization now and beyond. That remains to be seen. How long that is, but we'll attack that right away. Just felt like it was an opportunity for now and potentially moving forward that we'd identified a player that would fit into our age band that we're excited about.
Center or wing initially, you think, or an idea of which one you'd rather have him play?
I suppose a little bit depends on both Patrice and David in that sense. He's more than comfortable playing, all three positions and being productive. And again, we can always, move other people around. I think he sees himself as a center. He's excited to be joining the Boston Bruins, and we're excited to have him. Not really worried about the positional. I think down the road he's definably a center. So I think that helps us if we're able to, to find the term and an agreement.
Do you think he has a higher ceiling offensively than what he's been able to show?
Obviously that's what you hope for. When you go and make a trade of this nature and a player that was drafted and has the skill set that he has. He's had opportunity in situations and playing with better players, for periods of time, albeit in younger environment. So he'll have a chance to play with hopefully a really good in a top 9 scenario with us, and with Marsh being out, a significant opportunity early on from power play and situational play that hopefully he can benefit from. But we do believe there's more potential there, and it's up to Pavel to take advantage of the opportunities he's presented with.
Do you have any progress with David Pastrnak? I know you talked about how you could talk now. Any progress on that front?
No, nothing that concrete. We didn't exchange any numbers, as I said the other day. Officially, we can now, so we'll go right to work on seeing where David's at. And I said we're going to take an aggressive mindset and hopefully find the common ground and we'll see. There's no timeline on it.
You mentioned back in June that you were considering the buyout market. Has that changed at all?
No, it probably hasn't changed for where we stand. But people know me well enough. I don't rule things out because things can change as you go, but not at this point in time.
When it comes to Bergeron and Krejci, are you going to have to get creative with a one-year deal, like kind of like what Goodwill back in 2013 because of the cap situation?
Yeah, we'll probably be a little more tilted or look at the performance side of things.
Would you look to move salary before you sign those guys? If you're able to sign them?
Will I look to, or
Yeah.
do I have to? Which is,
Well, you don't. You're gonna have to at some point, probably, right?
it depends on how we structure the deals.
Yeah.
The one-way contract for AJ Greer, is that, say that he's gonna be a factor in the fourth line, or that's kind of the plan for him?
Our group did a lot of work. Obviously we're welcoming AJ and Dan Marinofski and Connor Carrick and Vinny Lettieri and Keith Kincaid to our group as well. We worked hard to look at the depth of our organization and address some of the areas that we felt we could benefit from. In AJ's case, had a heck of a year offensively. I think he understands, in talking with him today, and doing our background work on him, I think he understands himself a lot better as what type of player he is and how to be successful. And hopefully that translates. I mean, from a skating and a speed standpoint of getting on pucks and it being an aggressive mindset with his size, it's an attractive quality for us to add to our group. And Monty was excited about going through the coaching process and how he envisioned the bottom part of our lineup looking like. I think it was an area that we tried to identify, and AJ was a guy that we feel there's some upside there.
Going back to Pastrnak, is there a reason why you guys haven't exchanged numbers? Is that preference on his camp or your side so far? Just seems sort of the landscape.
Well, today was the very first day, in all honesty, that you could actually put a number in front of the player. So with a lot going on and elsewhere, it's just not an area that we've touched on. Maybe I'll call tonight and I'll let you know after that whether or not I've actually exchanged numbers if you're that concerned about it. But we're going to attack it in an aggressive mindset and see where hopefully it plays out. And that's really the timeline to be more definitive to answer your question.
McAvoy is probably the first departure from what has been like this incredible ability to have a real, keep your top contracts kind of even and not be out of sight like it happens in a lot of clubs. And now Pasternak's coming up. Navigating that whole thing going forward, are you gonna have to change your outlook on team building because it's getting to that point where you can't do what you've done to this point, which itself has been miraculous, but having McAvoy up at 9.5 and whatever David's gonna wind up getting, I mean, that sort of makes you a little more like everybody else when it comes to the biggest building sticking in the sky.
Well, I mean, we're a long way removed from when those contracts were signed. So I do believe that the landscape of what those players at that level are signing for, and that's what the marketplace dictates. Tampa did several deals today that indicate there's market shifts, and you got to move along with it if you're going to be competitive in this league. And good players are going to put their demands forward, and you're going to have to decide as an organization whether you can fit those things in or how you're going to fit those things in, and especially if you want those players. That's just sort of the nature of how the dynamic of the cap and how teams are being built. And I think you're seeing it pretty much across the board that these players are existing and what their their contract wishes are. And as an organization, we have to continue to react to that in a market environment. And the rest of the again, implementing younger players, finding players that provide depth to your organization are paramount.
Any general observations, just league-wide, the way things played out with the market today?
I mean, you saw some teams hit the accelerator in some situations, and they position themselves to add to their clubs, and some of them not ready to add to their clubs. But I think overall, the league's going to remain competitive to get in the playoffs. There's no question that it's these cycles that are existing, it gets harder and harder to just maintain your footing. And, you look at Tampa and reinvesting in their own players if they believe in them. And, we've done that, pretty well over here for a period of time. And I think referencing that, and, but you gotta continue to find pieces that help you, as well as what you're going to develop. And, but yeah, I would say that honestly that, some teams hit the accelerator in some areas.
With Patrice and Krejci, would you prefer to know sooner rather than later if they were planning on rejoining Bruins, or do you give them a deadline or not really?
No, I mean, there's certainly Patrice's case. There's not a deadline. He's dictating his timeline, but the conversations have gone well, so I'm not overly concerned about it. And David's recently indicated in terms of where he'd like to be, so I don't think there's a level of urgency. Obviously, the sooner you get these things to, if you can, to a closure, then the better off you'll be. Ideally, yes, I'd like an earlier timeline and everything.
Aside from Patrice and David, are you still looking to sign other players? Any other holes that you'd like to address?
No, we're not being aggressive. We got a little bit of a view to the back end, given a couple of our injuries. That if there's something presents itself there, some teams have asked about some of our players, so we're staying in talks in that regard. But I'm aggressively in the marketplace, at this point.
On the back end, do you expect a guy like Connor Carrick to kind of step up there with injuries to beginning of the season?
Yeah, I mean, with the injuries, I think there's a heck of an opportunity for somebody to emerge as and create internal competition. So we expect all the players, and Dan and Connor and, Kai Wisman, who's coming across from Europe, who's got 2 years of winning in the DEL, Jack Ashan. So yeah, we're going to have to look to our depth early on, especially with 2 of our primary players out.
Now, you said that talks with both Patrice and David are trending in a positive direction. Have they given you any kind of indication if they would actually go the other way and say, no, I don't want to play this year?
No, I mean, the talks have been positive. So, I'm not a general guy to focus on the negative or the bad side of it. I'm attacking it as it comes and taking my indications from them. And hopefully I find closure here in the shorter term versus the longer term.
If and when you are healthy on defense, there's a lot of mandatory contracts back there. Would you be comfortable, going into and through the season with that many NHL contracts, potentially manage guys sitting, or is that something you want to address at some point?
We go through quite a bit of defensemen during the course of the season and the year, so I don't think that's a major concern of mine as I sit today. I think the more the merrier, and the depth of your organization, the better off you're going to be, in particular on the back end. For whatever reason, it's reared its head, in the war of attrition, and go through the playoffs has happened to us. And I mean, Charlie and Grizz are great examples of getting dinged up and have to have surgery as a result. So no, I'm not disappointed to have the number of defense we have under contract at all. Possibly, yeah. You just never know, when you get into the fact the season, you start with 2 injuries, who knows? You knock on wood that you're not going to have more, but it's challenging,
Burrow was really getting comfy and really looking like the player you drafted and projected, and then the ACL was a devastating injury at that time. And, do you have is it too soon to have real full-out confidence that he's going to be 100% the same skater?
Yeah, it probably is, because I think that's just the nature of that injury. Guys take some time to get back. Now, in Jacob's case, he got injured very early in our season, so he's had significant time to come back and be back on the ice and have a full off-season of appropriate training and playing in, in his, whatever it's pickup games, and being on the ice appropriately. So that gives you a little bit of comfort and peace of mind. But I think you got to understand he's going to need some volume and reps, through training camp that'll allow him to get his timing completely back and probably play, significant exhibition games in order to, again, continue to improve upon his timing, because the speed of the game, as it goes along, gets ramped up. And but his recovery has gone very well. So we're hopeful that he does, as you pointed out, assume the nature of where his game was at and where it was trending. That's what we're excited about.
Were there talks with Curtis Lazar, consideration to keeping him?
Yeah. We, I wish Curtis well. He was a really great Bruin for us, and landed closer to home. Probably was best for he and his family, and Vancouver's lucky to have him.
That was important to Curtis, going back home.
You'd have to ask Curtis that. I mean, I have to, assume anybody would, if you've got a young child and have an opportunity to do that. Vancouver's a good organization. It must have been a good opportunity, but I can't speak for him in that regard. I just thank him because I thought he was a really good Bruin.
Well, typically, your fourth line has been this transient thing where guys do well and then they put themselves in that position. Shaw or Chari, the list goes, and Lazar's the latest one. If you had kept him, that would have been a break from the pattern from that. So you actually were, because he was a real fire plug for you guys. Played very well down the stretch. And, I thought that, I would hope you didn't think it that way, but I didn't realize it was a possibility in the cap world that you could think about even keeping him.
Yeah, probably just keeping an eye towards the potential guys that we have in the depth of our organization at this point in time that we feel need an opportunity. Now, whether they take it and hold on to it, several of those players need waivers. So, we just felt comfortable, not necessarily giving up term to see what these younger players may be able to offer to our group. And nothing against Curtis. Obviously, as you referenced, he was a really good player for us, and we're hopeful that the other guys are ready to assume that role. We have integrated well. We've identified pretty well of guys that can go in and handle that role, and hopefully we're going to continue to do so.
Have you been able to watch much of the guys on the ice at Dev Camp, or have you been pretty focused?
Probably not as much as I would like. Again, the timing of the critical date calendar is what it is, and it works best. You could always try and move the development camp beyond all these things, but ideally it works well for the Euros that are coming out of the draft, and making sure that outside of LaSalle and Lorei being injured, you're getting the vast majority of the players in camp, and I think that's really important. For them to spend the appropriate amount of time here. So, again, we're all juggling it. The vast majority of the teams have their camps at this point in time, and you just got to find the balance.
Someone mentioned Achari, Toronto signed today. Donato, Heinen are still out there. Did you kick tires on any of these guys?
I mean, I hope to think that I've had conversations with mostly everybody and understand what their landscape is going to be and fit them back in. Do you revisit players that have played with us and gone on to have some success elsewhere, and to think they can come back and duplicate? Yeah, I think you do. Those guys are all good players in the National Hockey League, and you wish them well. Vast majority of them, have looped back to say if the Boston Bruins, they would like to come back, and but in this case, didn't line up. We didn't have a lot of spots open in that regard. But we've created a lot of internal competition. I think the players are excited about, that opportunity, be it AJ or Dan or Vinny Lettieri or really any of the guys that we've just recently signed. They were excited to join a competitive environment and hopefully sustain winning.
With the understanding that you still have two potential big pieces out there, just how do you feel overall about the team as constituted?
You're just trying to create the deepest team you can. You're talking about, Patrice, who just won the Selke. As I said earlier, you're not replacing that player, unless you've gotten either lucky through the draft or you've drafted appropriately at the top of the rounds. And you've got other players that are injured. So, we're a long way from opening night, but you never feel great, comfortable. You just try and do the best job you can every day, and have the conversations with your coaches and how they feel about it, and see if there are areas with your scouts and your staff, identification, look for blind spots and things that how we're going to play, and really just pick apart the areas of your game that you think you can improve upon, whether that's internally, externally, and map out through the course of the year. Player transactions generally happen in bunches, this time of the year, trade deadline, and periodically throughout, but so you got to do a lot of work leading up to both of those environments, and then in a lot of cases you're sitting back and crossing your fingers to stay healthy or get healthy, and hope that the pieces of the puzzle fit.